committee meeting. And first on our agenda, actually, I should say that we have here a full committee. Yay. And we're going to start with public comment. And it's my understanding there's two people who would like to speak. And I'll ask that you come to the microphone over there so everyone can hear you.
Well, good evening. Nice to see you again. I am Linda DeSico. I am a Pennsylvania certified teacher. Until recently, I was a building sub and a Spanish teacher at South Hill. And in Pennsylvania, I taught junior high developmental reading until 1983 when I moved to Argentina, where I taught English as a second language until I returned here in 2014. And I also perfected my Spanish. I have been a sub in the district since 2015. So let me tell you about the day in the life of a building sub, those of you who may not know. It's not just a question of giving out photocopies to color or maybe word search puzzles. Building subs do like to teach because it keeps parameters within the classroom. And one of the most important things, a good way to start the day, is by greeting the children and making sure they get breakfast, because children who come from needy homes sometimes are reluctant to go and get breakfast. They need a little bit of coaxing. It also includes knowing the students. I know how many students at South Hill have insulin pumps. I have worked with one since pre-K. So I always have a special eye for these children when I'm out on the playground. Yes, I don't mind playground duty, even when it's sub-freezing temperature, because I get my steps. I really don't mind. Being a building sub is knowing about a boy and a girl who lost their father through a violent crime last year. And these children have been given a lot of free time to leave class. They need space, and these children require special attention. Being a building sub also includes knowing about a family at South Hill with precarious living conditions who had to make several moves during one school year. It also includes, believe it or not, toilet training of a first grader whom I knew from kindergarten. His aide left in October, November, and I was asked to work with him because although he's on the spectrum, he's bilingual, and we communicated very well in either language. And his special ed teacher and I, and his subsequent permanent aide, were involved in the toilet training of this first grader. And I must say, we did a great job. We sent him home dry every day. Now, none of these jobs, and I'm not complaining, but none of these jobs I ever found in my syllabus or a list of job descriptions. So, what am I trying to say here? As a Spanish teacher at South Hill, I taught 9 classes on Wednesday, and the other 4 days I was reserved as a building sub. What happened? 6 times I arrived to teach Spanish on Wednesday and I was pulled, meaning we don't have enough subs. You cannot teach Spanish today. We need you in pre-K. Whatever. This happened under Perry Gorgon, 2 years under Perry, who had confidence in my competence. He knew me as a sub, but he didn't know me as a Spanish teacher. And this happened last year. So I am here as an advocate for my colleagues. And I wish to conclude by saying that I feel sorry for the children who hugged me, who found me over the summer in the supermarket, wherever, when I told them that I would not be back as a Spanish teacher. Also, my apologies to Samantha Little, who was the one behind this program. It was the only Spanish program at the elementary level. It's not a mandate, so I didn't need certification. But Perry had confidence in me, and I wish to give my apologies to Perry and Samantha, because this program is also not on the agenda this year. And also to the children who will lose learning a language, because when you learn a language, you learn a culture. And we live in a very diverse, multicultural society here. And it was a way to teach something other than Cinco de Mayo is related to Taco Bell. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Linda. Next.
I like the sitting down approach better. I learned from the last meeting. So thanks, everyone. So my name is Scott Yankee. I'm a parent within the school district. As we were all made aware in middle of August, one of the board members did resign from the board itself. And I know there's been a lot of discussion as a board as it relates to how do we resolve this, or do we resolve it? And I guess I wanted to kind of interject maybe another option, maybe that you guys have considered or haven't considered yet as well. But I do want to start off with and say that I do think appointing someone does go against kind of what we anticipated as voters. I think when we did go to vote, we went to vote for 3 board members. We did not go to vote for 4 board members itself. So automatically going ahead and going down to the 4th person in that list, I feel does go against what personally myself as a voter would want in this situation. I would like to see, I mean, if you do appoint someone, that it might be someone outside of the candidate list that was proposed, maybe a former board member, maybe someone else within the community that would be a viable option for that. But thanks to Emily, I did want to bring up one other option, which was that in May, when we did have the election, the capital fund ballot measure did not pass. As a board, you do have 90 days, or sorry, you have after 90 days, you can put that back up for re-election, or I don't know, it's not election, but up on the ballot. Yeah, on the ballot once again. I think this might be a good opportunity to actually use a special election to actually kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where you can go ahead, and I think the capital fund is important. I think it does help out our schools in the long run. It is something that we all agree probably does need to happen, along with having an additional board member then get voted in by the public at that particular point. Although there is, of course, an additional component where you do also have to have that special election now within 90 days, since the former board member did resign. So it would have to happen quite quickly here as well. But that's all I had. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Next on the agenda, approval of minutes from the August 6th meeting. I was here. You were here. Did you have a chance to review the minutes?
I did.
And
I approve.
as do I. The minutes are approved. Discussion items. I've packed what we have today. We don't have a whole lot of time today, but I've asked Zach and other human resources folks to come and talk with us about the current status of our staffing as we begin the school year, as well as giving us an overview of hiring and application procedures in the district. So I think things change over time, and it's good for us to be up to date on what's actually going on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach Lind, the Assistant Superintendent for Technology and Human Resources. And with me is Ladira.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Gladira Velasquez, Assistant Director of Human Resources.
So we have a slideshow here that we'll go through. The first part, we're going to do a little bit on the sort of staffing review for the summer. It's been a busy summer in the Human Resources Department. Actually, these last 2 weeks tend to be the busiest of our year as sort of all the last minute things get figured out. Despite our meticulous planning and months of preparation, there's always folks moving in and out of our community and adjustments in class sizes and staffing needs for special education and sort of every component of our organization. So we're going to take a few minutes to go through sort of where we're at with staffing right now. I'll turn over to Khaldira for the first part.
Thank you. And I just want to thank all the people in our Human Resources office, because without all of our admin assistants, these numbers of hiring would not have happened, the amazing onboarding and recruiting. So shout out to them. So here's a total number of all our staff right now by group. So you'll see ITA, we have a total of 565 employees, and that makes 42% of our employees. So ITA includes all of our instructional, so that's teachers, school psychologists, school counselors, social workers, what else am I missing? So all of the instructional, I may have missed a couple. Occupational therapists are also included under the Ithaca Teachers Association. ESPs, you'll see is 18%. So that's the education support professionals. They're all the teacher aides, teaching assistants, 244 employees. Currently to date, we are actively still hiring, onboarding folks, so those numbers may fluctuate a little bit. 229 of our employees are Ithaca Substitutes Association, so that's 17%. Employees Association, 21%, and that includes school bus drivers, nurses, custodians. A lot of our facilities are there. And then you'll see the small numbers, managerial confidential make 1%. And then our executive team, which is 0.05% of our employees.
And I would add, we tend to have the most turnover in the ESP group, in the ITA group, in terms of hiring and rehiring. For the, ISA is also a large group where we see flow in and out as people come in and out of our community. But it's really the ITA and the ESP group that we see a lot of churn, and we're working on staffing for this year.
So currently, so new educators orientation happened last week. And so at the new educators orientation, we invite all of the instructional folks, new folks. We have hired 64 total Ithaca Teachers Association members. And in this slide right here, it's presenting how many of those are certified and how many of those are working towards certification, which we've been able to hire under the memorandum of agreement.
And something to note, it says pending cert. Many of these folks are a handful of classes. You know, if we have 19 folks hired under the MOA as of right now, many of them are very close to gaining certification. We've talked about this in previous meetings. This mechanism allows us to find folks who are perhaps in the last semester of coursework to get certification. We bring them in, start them under the MOA, and then we hire them in as sort of probationary track members upon gaining their certification. So many of the folks in that group of 19, we anticipate transitioning into sort of the red block up there, and then over the course of the year. And it's always hard to project out exactly because we're not in their courses or knowing exactly what they have, or we don't always have access to their state portal information in terms of what's being uploaded. But an estimated guess would probably put us well over half of these folks should be a semester or so away from certification.
And we'll be doing some quarterly check-ins with all the folks that are pending so that we know where they're at, how far away they are. Do they need any assistance from us navigating that certification process? Because many times they get to the point where they've completed all the requirements, but then navigating the actual application process. And so vacancies, and I've split it up by special ed, are the first couple slides, and then we have our other vacancies. So currently, special education support professionals, teacher aides, teaching assistants. These are the current vacancies that we're looking to fill. And you'll see there's a total of 10 teacher aides that we need to fill, and 4 teaching assistants. I've broken them down by the buildings.
Excuse me, Glendira. So
Oh, yes.
other than LACS, then secondary is covered.
DeWitt's up there as well.
Oh, sorry, I missed DeWitt.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
but
Yeah, we tend to have less one-to-one aides or program aides at the secondary level. So there's a lower ratio within the building of ESPs.
And then for our instructional, so ITA members, you'll see for elementary special education, we're needing to fill 10 vacancies. One of them is currently hired. And again, I just want to point out that we are still in the process of onboarding folks. So this was as of, let's say as of 8/28 or 8/30, these numbers. So we need 10 elementary special education. One of those is a long-term sub, so it's a person that's on a leave. Secondary special education, 9. And school psychologists, we need 4. Occupational therapists, we currently need 1 full FTE, so a 0.5 half-time LACS, half-time Enfield.
And just something to note, we've talked about this a lot in previous HR committees, but a mechanism within the Ithaca Teachers Association contract allows us to assign what's called an overage to teachers, which essentially gives them the ability to be compensated at a higher rate for an additional teaching duty. So many of these are, if you have 4 or 5 teachers, they all maybe pick up an extra class, and the overage mechanism will help us cover some of those. And then we also will contract out with third-party vendors for PT, OT, or even psychologist services.
Yes. Any questions on that?
I have one. Yeah, so I think last year we started the year, I think we were 13 special education teachers shy. I could be wrong about that, but something like 13. And I guess this year it's 19. So I'm just kind of wondering why, what makes it difficult to fill these positions in our school district? It seems like we always start the year with a big shortage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a national shortage. I was looking at other districts. They're all in the same boat as we are. Everyone has special education vacancies, and there's very niche certification areas that are just hard to fill. So there's one part is the sort of just the hard to fill element. Then anything else beyond that is going to be speculation, but there's factors from the number of people matriculating into educational programs around our country is decreasing. So we're seeing fewer students coming out of our traditional programs. Last winter, we even had folks in this committee visit from Cortland, I believe, talking about different programs and options and opportunities. Also, when we say we have openings, some of these do get filled by folks under MOAs. So some of those folks will become certified over the course of the year as well. So you have that. And then you just have sort of the supply and demand of our region and different careers that people choose, different pathways. Some folks leave education. So it's kind of hard to say exactly why that happens, but we just know there's a lot of factors both within our control, but then many that are well beyond our control.
Yeah, there is definitely a larger percentage that are certified in childhood 1 through 6 and are going that path than students with disability certification. So many of it is growing our own. And through that, our teacher aides, teaching assistants have gone back to school to get their certifications. The ESP contract does allow for tuition reimbursement. And then also while they're student teaching to be able to be paid during that time. So we have seen some benefits through that.
We've got, go ahead. Oh, no, I just want, one follow-up, like, because we've talked about this. I mean, I've had some conversations offline with other people on the board. I guess just wondering, like, what kind of extraordinary measures, can the district take to try, to be a district that doesn't have a lot of openings? Because I mean, some districts probably fill the spots, many don't, like, what could be done?
I mean, I would challenge anyone to show me the 500 teacher or 500 plus teacher district that doesn't have a lot of openings. Not like as a personal challenge, but just as like a general challenge. Like, I think it's something we're all grappling with. But to answer your question, then we sort of get into all the nuances. What does the contract say about how folks are compensated? What does the contract say about how folks are recruited? What does the contract say about how folks are retained? Right. So those are a lot of the mechanisms that would have to be looked at. And then beyond that, it's sort of how do we the next thing, particularly with special education, is then we look at how do we staff this? And then there's also these balances of, you don't want to, I guess you could have less openings if you assign a larger caseload, but there's that comes with a lot of negatives as well. So there's a lot of nuance to that and finding what sort of your happy balances are in terms of compensation, caseload, placement, so how you put students in different grade levels. It gets a lot more nuanced. And I would, that's probably another discussion that we could look at for a future agenda where we can include our colleagues from the special education department.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Zach, if we have a deep dive into special education at some point soon.
Yeah.
Because there are a whole lot of factors at play, of course, and I'd be interested in looking at it a little bit longitudinally, like where were we 10 years ago?
Sure.
And where are we now, just in terms of numbers? Because I know we have more students identified, and do we also have more, a higher level of service for some of those? I mean, I know it's not an easy thing to quantify, but it would be interesting to look at.
Right.
I'm looking back, and the people that I was working with 10 years ago, nobody is working as a special ed teacher anymore. So I think that's a microcosm of what, there's a lot of retirements in the field. A lot of women go into other areas now.
Right. And it's also going to go back to sort of how do we philosophically want to approach from a board level, from a policy level, also all of these things. So there's like,
Yep.
there's so many different elements. So we could absolutely make it an agenda item. We can have a discussion about that and include whoever is necessary.
Sure, let's plan that. Well, I hope you've given us the worst first in terms of vacancies.
Yes. Yeah, as I mentioned, the elementary vacancies, so we actually did see, we interviewed a lot of certified folks, which was great. So in terms of elementary teachers, we are at a very good place right now. We do have library media specialist vacancy is currently being filled under MOA. So that the certificate, it's a individual working towards certification. And I just want to mention what the vacancies that are being filled under the memorandum of agreement, we still list it as a vacancy, and that we have included in the agreement. So although it's being filled, we are still listing it on our website as a vacancy to try to fill it with a certified person.
Also, just to add, as an educational institution in New York State, we actually are compelled to hire certified staff. So in the instances where someone is uncertified, we will keep that posting up until that person either becomes certified or we find a qualified candidate that we can put into that place. The MOA, which was the board signed off on last week, if I remember correctly, outlines that process as well and specifically indicates that we will keep the positions posted until the person either becomes certified or we find a candidate. Something to note when you look at the chart here, at the middle school, particularly the middle school level, there's a challenge in finding sort of in what we call the CTE, career and technical education strands, health, family and consumer science, technology. Those are traditionally very hard to fill areas. There is some leniency in terms of how we program. You kind of just have to offer bands within that. Something just that's helpful to know. One of the ways we've done that is New York State allows teachers to get a computer science certification because the computer science standards were written as part of New York State Education Department, and anyone teaching a computer science class was able to apply for a certification that allows them to continue teaching computer science for, I believe, up to 10 years in the district if they are teaching a class here. So we actually had a whole cohort of folks who are getting certified in that, and some of them are teaching at the middle school level, and that can meet some of the CET requirements. But we still have a couple of positions out there.
And you'll see reading teacher. So we are trying to fill a couple vacancies district-wide. And I've just listed per building, what are the vacancies that we have. So Boynton health teacher, as Zach mentioned, family consumer science, 6th grade math, DeWitt reading teacher, family consumer science as well, 7th grade social studies, 6th grade math, high school health teacher, technology teacher, orchestra director, biology teacher, physical education.
Any questions? Anybody?
I may have missed this. The MOA. Where can I see that?
That would have been in the board, probably executive folder previously. If you're finding you can't find it, I know Tricia can probably help you out with that.
Yeah, the last full meeting.
Last, I was there. That's why. Okay. So it was last. Oh, that's what I missed, right? Okay, that's why I don't know. Well, I let me go look at that. But I guess the question I had is, are there any additional tools or resources that we could provide that would help you?
I mean, yes, but there's always the challenge of sort of time, access, money, all those pieces. But the tool the MOA as a tool is probably the best first step that we can take. It allows us to bring in teachers who are close to certification and get them in. The next piece would be probably looking at ways that we, there's not necessarily not enough teachers in our state as a pool, but rather imbalances in certification areas. So then it's a question of how can we incentivize and help support teachers sort of like transitioning into the highest need spots, but also being highly qualified to teach those as well. So, if you're asking, it would be looking forward about how can we creatively encourage teachers to seek certification in our hardest to fill niche areas in a way that supports all of our teachers but also gets the right teachers in the right places. And there's a lot of challenges within that. It sounds like a simple statement, but when you have a bargaining unit contract that applies to everyone, you have to apply it to everyone. So we have to sort of think through and probably collaborate with our colleagues on how to best tackle those pieces.
All right. Well, so I mean, I need to go read the MOA. That's like that. I know I understand why I don't know what it is. It wasn't black me. I wasn't here, but we're also recognizing we want to be fair to all employees, but I think incentives that we can offer to either new hires as well as current employees who wish to expand their opportunities or certifications in the forms of things like moving out allowances or paying tuition for credits and things like that. I guess I'm just very open and either eat now and then also looking at Catherine, in the contract negotiation to find ways that we can help each other to kind of ease the burden of getting more qualified people behind these desks, however can be done. And I say that just in particular thinking of new employees who are oftentimes coming, not always, but very often coming right out of school where cash is tight and actually relatively small amounts of money can potentially be impediments to getting people into positions. So I just want to, that's not a conversation for today, but I think maybe in a future meeting to look at other things we could do along those lines.
Yeah, all great points and something we can certainly discuss further.
Catherine, is there anything you wanted to add at this point as far as the areas of vacancies or?
No, I think that Zach has done a really nice job of kind of laying out all of the various parameters and numbers and kind of getting a little bit.
Okay, thank you. And still a lot of bus drivers.
The good news on the bus drivers and checking with the transportation department is, we do still have vacancies. It's my understanding, and Bob can, I think, back me up on this, but we've actually made some great strides with our new GPS routing software, and our routes are becoming more and more efficient. And this is not to say we don't still need drivers, we do, but we've been able to definitely be more efficient in terms of how we can staff and how many rides and buses we need all at one time. So we're seeing some real positive movement from the transportation department as they sort of start leaning into the technological solutions that are out there.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Similarly, not similarly, but custodial, really since COVID has been a challenge just in terms of building out that workforce with a lot of folks in our different schools. So it's one of our challenges with having a lot of different buildings spread out across the county. Just so we have 9 vacancies.
All right. Thank you. If we don't have any more questions, let's use our remaining time to jump ahead to, I asked Zach and Gladier to provide us an overview of hiring, application, and maybe onboarding if we get to that, just because we've all heard questions and occasionally concerns.
Yeah, so this slide deck will be posted on with our meetings at the end here. So this is just an overview of our hiring and application processes. So this is something that we've been revamping over the last couple of years, and I would say we had a revamp last year, and probably this year's fine tuning a lot of this, but creating a lot of statements of work and a lot of sort of optimization of our different systems. But things to know. When a vacancy is identified, it could be a new position's created, it could be someone leaves either suddenly or retirement, a lot of different reasons. Our hiring managers, and I say hiring manager because it could be a building principal, it could be someone, could be the director of facilities, technology, wherever it might be. They're going to submit a request into our human resources information system. In this case, we use the tool called Schoolfront. And what we have is actually an approval ladder in Schoolfront. So the position, it could be a 1.0 social studies position at the high school, gets sent in by the principal, and then it goes directly to our HR staff. They say, oh, yep. They sort of review it for the basics. They have all the information we need. There's an approval chain. It goes to position control in the payroll and business office, comes back up to the director executive level, gets through all the approvals, and then goes back to our HR member in charge of posting. So there's a whole little approval ladder, which doesn't sound exciting, but for people like me that find those things exciting, it actually has, it solves like the lost file that fell behind the desk issue that has happened in organizations in the past. For us, so you have like an approval flow and you can keep track of it. So then what happens is that posting gets posted to, it's on our website. And if you go to the Ithaca City School District website, they'll say careers right up top. You click on that, you'll get every sort of everything from coaches to subs to administrators to teachers, all the different groups. If you click on each of those groups, it'll show you the postings that are available. If someone's interested from there, they can actually go click on that link and it'll take them to a tool called RecruitFront. RecruitFront is sort of the other side of our tool, Schoolfront. And in RecruitFront, you can create an account and you can apply to whatever jobs you're interested in. It'll ask you to upload sort of all your relevant details from a cover letter, resume, certifications you may have, previous histories. And this is important because it also collects people's names and key information. And that information is going to stick with that candidate through the rest of the system. Again, this is the optimization of our processes, because previously it would be, if anyone's had to do this before, probably, in the last about 10 or 15 years ago, you'd be filling out a new set of data every single time. So this information is actually going to stick with folks. We'll send them, if we hire them later on in the process, we're sending it right back through that same account to that email, and everything kind of sticks. And that's really important to us because, again, less data loss, less opportunities to misspell someone's name or not realize that the E at the end of the name actually is really important or whatever it is. And those things, that's meaningful. So candidates apply. Also, the postings go through a tool called Handshake, which posts it out on other different boards as well, and allows us to have a wider reach. After the posting closes, usually they're 10-day postings. That's our standard model, meaning 2 weeks, 10 business days. It goes for review. Our HR staff will look at preliminary qualifications. If someone's civil service, are they actually, do they actually have the requisite experience? Could we even hire them into this? Similarly with teachers, if we have a whole pool of qualified, certified candidates, we're very unlikely to interview folks that aren't certified. It's only that when those pools get exhausted that we move over to that. And if there's a appropriate and large enough group, we will convene a panel to screen applicants. A message will go out from the HR staff to our key stakeholders, our union representatives, and our community representatives, asking if people want to be on the screening committee. Frankly, we don't do a lot of screening committees anymore. That was much more common probably 5 or 8 years ago. Right now, there's very few candidate pools where we get so many qualified candidates that we can't just interview them all. So when we can, we try to interview everyone. That's our review process. And then what we do is we go to the interview process. And HR will then send another email out to stakeholders asking for committee participation. The hiring manager sets dates. When is this going to happen? It's usually, within a week or two after the posting closes, but some of our hiring managers are very busy, so there's some flexibility there. And then we move to HR schedules all the different, and this again is another piece. The HR team that does this schedules all the interviews, gets the room, gets the questions together. Our committee comes in. Something that everyone should know is we have a policy in the Ithaca City School District of having set questions for all of our candidates, meaning in almost every situation, all candidates get the same set of questions. And then everyone in the committee hears the same answers from everyone. And it's part of our effort to make sure that we're asking everyone the same things, learning the same things about folks. But that's what we do there. And in most cases, we only do one round of interviews. Occasionally in the spring with elementary certified folks, we'll do a couple rounds, or for director level positions, sometimes we will do a couple of rounds. At the end of the interview process, the hiring manager will debrief with the committee. Committee members provide feedback and responses about the different candidates, and the hiring manager in the end, the hiring manager in the end will make the ultimate decision on who is going to be hired. Something to know, if I just jump forward, is offers and reference checks happen after the committees meet. And what you'll find sometimes is we might really, really like a candidate. And once reference calls go out, maybe feedback comes in that the rest of the committee wouldn't know because they're not the hiring manager, and that person doesn't get hired. So sometimes we'll get feedback in the HR world of, this candidate was really, everyone really liked this person. Why didn't you hire them? And we can't say publicly to the rest of the committee, well, actually, you should have heard what this reference said, or when we looked into this thing. So that's just something I'm saying out here to everyone now, because that's a part of the process that can sometimes be confusing, but our hiring managers do have to make some calls to folks, check with references, document their information, and then make a decision. If an offer is accepted, we actually send out offer letters now. That's a new iteration that we've brought up in the last year or so. And those offer letters sort of outline where someone's going to be positioned, what their salary will be based on the information, what further information we need from them, what the potential start date will be. And if they agree and respond to the offer letter, we will start onboarding them digitally using our school front system. And then they're going to get invites to our in-person onboarding process. And usually the week after a board meeting, they'll come in like the following Monday or Tuesday, and we'll have their accounts ready to go, their devices set up, and try to get them into our system. So that's the sort of crash course on hiring and onboarding.
Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate you condensing it in that way as well. I know that wasn't easy. But,
a couple of things I just realized I wanted to throw at the end. Things that also come up, civil service is a big piece. We talk a lot about certification, but civil service governs a lot of our EA employees, which means they have to have the proper certifications or sort of resume on file, so to speak. So sometimes there'll be a whole group of folks that are applying for a job, but maybe they don't have enough experience on their resume, that sort of thing. So civil service, City of Ithaca HR departments runs a civil service for, we're in their jurisdiction. And civil service candidates actually have to, they'll be hired provisionally if they haven't taken a test, but they actually have to take a test to pass, and then pass it in place in the right level. So civil service can be a barrier sometimes. Fingerprinting is also really important. Folks that don't clear New York State Education Department fingerprints can't work with our students. So every once in a while, folks will get either the applications will get held, or they just won't clear fingerprints at all. And we don't always even know exactly why. but there's a whole process for it, but it is something that can cause problems and delays. And then the last part is we've talked about before, but the job market is also a big challenge. So I just wanted to throw some other elements. Like sometimes we can't fill something, so a posting will remain open for 3 months rather than 2 weeks. All right, that's all.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions at this point? Thoughts? Hi, Gary.
Yeah, so just 3 questions. I'll lay out 3 questions, and then you can answer them or come back to them if we're out of time. First is the school. I've just been planning here to look at this, try to get to the school front. I don't have an account yet, so I can't get in, but I'll try to look at that. Does that mean participation in OLAS, I believe, which is some kind of BOCES product? Is that ended or?
Yeah, so we no longer use OLAS as a recruiting system. Our analysis indicated that we only gotten, there's a fee associated with that. And over the course of the year, we were getting, I want to say less than 10 candidates that we were actually bringing in for interviews. So,
Okay.
And if you look at school front, it's used by a lot of larger size districts around here. The other piece with OLAS that was a challenge for us, again, a good tool for a lot of folks, is the data integration, the ability to get someone's name and pull it into our system doesn't exist. So then you're doing a lot of double entries and sort of manual work as well. So there's some technical challenges.
Okay, so the next 2 questions are questions, comments that we can come back to another day. But I have been a fly on the wall in a couple ICSD interviews, and I come from a different environment where interviews last 2 days, and candidates go like meet a lot of people. So like the idea of a half an hour, pretty short interview with preset questions with no follow-ups, I guess I find it really lacking and wanting. And I understand the reason is to be equitable by asking this, but they just seem really superficial and short, and to me completely insufficient. So I guess I'd like to, I don't know what the policy was that led to that, but I guess I'd like to open up. I don't know if it's a policy or an HR thing, but if they're really short preset questions, like they're minimal interviews. And I guess I'd like to revisit if we couldn't do more with interviews, and then B, again, I just, it does seem like a very passive approach to recruitment. And, I just think that there may be constituencies of candidates, and certain, we can come back to this, in certain parts of the state, in certain parts of other states, that would find the mission and the character of ICSD to be, and of Ethica, and, the unique educational opportunities here, that I think would find this district to be a district that would stand out from, amongst many of the other 700 districts in the state. And so I just think posting is not enough. I think we need to say, what are the types of people that would be attracted to this community and the philosophy of education in this school district, and do more. So we could talk about examples of that, but I think from my view, I think we need to think about a more proactive, identifying candidates who would be interested, reaching out to them, and not just posting and seeing who sends a resume in.
We talked about that some last year with graduate professors from both Cortland and IC, was it? Who came in and talked about their people and how they, what works to encourage them. I know that Gladera also attends job fairs around the state and does do recruiting at those. But yeah, I think that would be a worthwhile discussion to have. How we might target people who are likely to find, a good match with us.
I mean, I guess just to be the last thing it's not a criticism. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm just trying to think of ways to give you more tools, both through interviewing and through recruiting, give you more tools, more leverage to go out. Because I think we've got a very attractive proposition to candidates. And so I'm just trying to find a way to give you more options and tools and authority.
Yeah, all great points. I think, as you can see, we've been happy to go in and revamp a lot of our HR processes. So if there's a better way that we can do it in other mechanisms we want to leverage, that's absolutely something we're open to discussing further. I think for a lot of it, it's going to come down to sort of what are the couple of buckets. What are the policy shifts that we're interested in making? What are the financial allocations that we feel would be sufficient to get that done? And then what are the, perhaps related, the sort of bargaining contractual elements that we would have to tackle.
Yeah.
It's kind of a three-part question.
Sure.
There's some, if you go around the country, there's some districts that are buying properties and housing folks in them, right? I don't know. I'd have to check with our council and see, but that's how they're recruiting new teachers. They're putting them in groups, right? And then other places are looking at how to incentivize continuing education or into other areas. So there's a lot of things being done around the country. But I do also agree that there's some very attractive elements of our district. I mean, we just had some great rankings in New York, or national news. What was the Newsweek report on schools? Right, I think we're in some of the top percentiles for STEM. Our high school is, so there's a lot of reasons folks would want to come here. So I think you're making a great point.
So future, I guess you can just
bet.
go ahead and put that on future
Yeah.
agenda items. I mean, I'm just
Let's do
bringing
kind
it
of
up, not
a
to,
follow-up
yeah.
on that. And Adam or Emily, do either of you have a pressing question right now, or can we put it on the next?
No, I
Well,
echo everything that
Okay.
Derek just said.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are out of time
Thank you.
today. Oh, sorry, Sean.
Process are. There have been far too many times when interview process has been unequitable, is the best way of saying it. So if there is a look to try to change that, I will keep equity at the back of, or at the forefront of what we're doing. We got there through a number of, I know Ladera's had a number of training about them and training other folks as well. And so I wouldn't want to lose that work because we feel like sometimes it's not sufficient enough. Just to make sure that we're understanding that the interview process is fraught with every possible unconscious bias you can imagine. And to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I really recognize that, but I guess just my personal view, having sat through a couple of days, is that we minimize bias by minimizing the interview. I mean, they're just not really interviews. They're preset questions, no follow-up, no. I mean, they're.
Box, if I had a preset question, all candidates are asked the same question. That's why I'm saying that.
No,
I'll be at that.
So I guess what I put it to is the challenge then is to have to continue to maintain a meaningful interview that allows interaction, but without slipping into the biases. I fully get you on that. So I think that's the challenge I put before all of us is, can we do better being mindful of exactly what you said.
And with that, thank you all. We'll move on to our next meeting.
Our meeting here will be